Before we get started, this video is sponsored by FaB Foundry, one of the first Flesh and Blood specialized game stores in the world, a pillar of the local FaB community in Portland, Oregon, a world tour organizer, and my personal favorite LGS. FaB Foundry is your one-stop shop for all things FaB related, whether that's singles, sealed product, playmats, sleeves, dice and tokens, especially featuring products from Metal FaB and Thai cards. FaB Foundry also offers a rewards program, which you can use to get store credit back on all your purchases. So please go check out FaB Foundries, support our local community in Portland, and use our promo code FleshandBad for a discount on your next singles order.
Bruh, 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 bruh.
Hey everyone, welcome back to more Flesh and Bad, and today I wanted to kind of showcase the latest changes to the Marlin list. So I think we worked on this list a little bit after the ban announcement. So if those of you, I guess, who have been living under a rock or whatever, red and yellow tipple are banned. So now we have to kind of make do as Marlin and kind of work around that. So the main changes to the Marlin deck list that I've kind of been working on are mainly just kind of tweaking the ratios a bit. So now that Tipple's gone, I think that big game trophy shot gets a lot better. It might even just be main deck at this point. I'm not 100% on this, but like the fact that you're not having that awkwardness between the red Tipples and the big game trophy shots is really nice. So I do like this, having this card in the main, just a very solid as a 2 of already, and I think going up to 3 makes a lot of sense. And for the main deck, we're also kind of upping the blue counter a little bit. So basically, I'm going to try today to basically replace the red Tipples with blue Tipples. I think that's a lot of I guess what some people in the Marlin chat are trying. I wanted to try Blue Tipple out. Now, Blue Tipple, I think, is a card that's not necessarily impressed me in Marlin, at least in like past lists, but we're going to try it today. I still don't know how I feel about this card. Like, it's obviously kind of insane in Gravy. It's kind of cool that it's still, I guess, a card in Gravy. This card is just bonkers strong, right? But at blue and Marlin, it's like a little bit less exciting, especially since Gravy, I think, is still going to be like a relatively good meta threat. So Blue Tipple, not super exciting, except for like killing like Rigor Mortis or stuff like that. Next, we'll kind of talk, I guess, a little bit about the sideboards. So I think for the most part, like the main deck doesn't really change much. I think we just cut the Loan Sharks mainly to make room for more big game trophy shot and more blues. The sideboard does change a little bit though, so I've gone down on Tar Pit Trap because we're probably going to be seeing a little bit less slippy, and I think that the third Tar Pit Trap is sometimes a little bit clunky, so we're going to try this as a 2 of today. And then we're also going to be running the red saltwater swell. So these are mostly just for Gravy. I think you can run it into like longer fatigue matchups. I think that's reasonable. But for the most part, we're going to be just running this into Gravy as just a good breakpoint. Mainly just a 1 for 3 is a good stat line, and also sometimes you get the higher potential off the top. One other card, so I guess there are a couple of cards I'm still kind of considering. I probably should put the blue Murderous Rabbles in here as well, but these I think are the cards I'm still considering. So maybe extra Battering Bolt, maybe the Loan Sharks come back in, maybe we run Fatigue Shot or just some other random. I guess we'll also maybe talk about Fatigue Shot. So Fatigue Shot is kind of replacing Hamstring, at least for this video. I kind of want to just test to see how often this effect comes up and how often it's blocked. Maybe it ends up being blocked a little bit more than Hamstring Shot. Maybe it's a little bit meta dependent. I think if the meta is geared a little bit more towards maybe Guardians or classes that send bigger attacks, I think Fatigue Shot gets a little bit better. So we're going to try Fatigue Shot today. Again, I'm not like super sold on it, and it probably doesn't matter very much because it's just a blue 3 block for the most part. Yeah, but I think this card maybe has some merit over like Hamstring Shot, for instance. And that's going to be the list for today. So let's go ahead and get into some games. Playing against a Victor. So first or second to Victor. I feel like second's generally better. We definitely went Dominion. I feel like Victor can get a little bit more fatiguey. So I almost don't mind bringing in like the Saltwater Souls and the Drop the Anchors. I feel like Battering Bolt, there's like a small argument for, but I don't think that's necessary. I think I kind of like the 66. I think this seems fine. Let's try it like this. It seems they're also boarding up a little to 63. I think that's reasonable. All right, starting off with Gold Main Estate. Very good. Say that is a pretty good opener for them. We do need to be a little bit careful about fatigue in this matchup. We do have Eye plus Quiver, which is a nice combo on turn 1, though. Kind of like maybe just giving the Drop the Anchor plus the Bolton shot here, and then maybe going Fish with our two looks here. I guess we technically have 3 looks. So let's see if we can find one of our bigger harpoons. There's also a small chance that we just want to whiff this. I feel like starting on Arsenal, even if it's a bad Arsenal, I mean, It's kind of hard to say. I feel like I'd almost rather maybe be safe and leave the tipple on top and then leave the dropped anchor for later in the game. I think that maybe makes sense because tipple is actually a good way to start the game generally. Let's maybe just leave the tipple on top and whiff off the quiver, and then we can use the tipple to kind of start our gold gen going. I think I kind of like just leaving it like this. All right, so we have a choke slam and the golden sun and pitch. Pretty good. So we're definitely going to be looking to try to shrink this Victor's gold just a little bit here. So we have the tipple, but we also have gold the tip on our hand. Definitely awkward. One line I see is we can like port side, hope to draw into a blue, and then redfin. Because the tipple costing 1 here is actually a bit awkward. I think I actually don't mind that as much. Like maybe we just port side the goldfin, draw into a blue, and even if we draw into like a red, that's still kind of a fine fail state because we can still dominate the or overpower the harpoon. I think I kind of like this play. And there's also the high roll. If we draw blue, then we can also gold the tip it. All right, we draw Codex instead, which is not useful yet. That's fine though. I think here, so unfortunately we didn't hit the blue. That would have made this a lot better. But I think maybe saving these for the late game is not the end of the world. So now I get to gold the tip. We go off an arsenal, but it's also not that bad. Given that maybe they have a CNC they want to send next turn. I think overall, going off an arsenal against Victor is sometimes fine. It does mean we might need to pop gold on the next turn, but if we're getting a bunch of armor here, that's also fantastic for us. So we reveal a saltwater swell, hit game. They do have to re-trigger this gold main estate by putting it on the bottom though, so that's actually quite nice. Means we have one less gold main estate to worry about for a little bit. Hitting a thunk though is a little bit unfortunate. So I'd say overall, not the worst thing in the world. Maybe just looking to try to block a bit this turn, depending on what they do. All right, this is looking like maybe a pretty good blocking turn. So I feel, okay, so they could have a pummel in hand, obviously, but I feel like a lot of Victor lists have been cutting the pummels recently. I feel like maybe just blocking with the swell and then Sunken Treasure, and then maybe just like arsenaling the tipple is like our best bet here. So maybe do this, just like reset up some gold, because we can also banish their Golden Sun from the graveyard, and then just like not attacking into the turn into them for a turn, I think is reasonable. So let's try something like this. We will unfortunately lose our power, but we're not going to send anything next turn, so I think that's fine. Go ahead and turn over the Golden Sun, just generate a little bit of gold. And if we get pummeled here, I think that's also not the end of the world. Try to play a little bit of a slower game and just play towards trying to steal their gold, I think is kind of like the main play here. Ooh, this is looking like a nice hand if we get to keep it. Unfortunately, the tipple and the big game trophy shot are a little bit redundant here. But if we need to like block with one, I think that's also fine. All right, I'm just going to send a headbutt here. This deals 4 more damage to hero, put a -1 on a head they have equipped, and if it has 0 power, destroy it. So this actually might be kind of a judge question, but I think because this doesn't have a base defense, this won't destroy it. I'm kind of curious to see how. I mean, obviously it's Crown of Dominion. We don't really care if this hits, but I'm kind of curious what's going to happen. If I understand correctly, we should keep our Crown of Dominion, which doesn't matter in the slightest in this matchup, but is still funny. Okay, so we do get the -1 counter, but it doesn't destroy because it doesn't have 0 base. Okay, that actually makes sense. So we do get the counter, but we don't get it destroyed. So that kind of tracks with my understanding. Okay, so we have the gold to tip in our soul, which we do need to like play out here. So if that's the case, we maybe just want to do that before going for like the big game trophy shot or anything here. So I think let's start with that. See if we draw any more spice on this draw, because this is looking like a very nice draw. The only problem here is we don't have an arrow yet. But we can pretty easily find an arrow. Hopefully. Let's... How do we want to start? So we do also have Tunic up. I kind of like the idea of maybe just like big game trophy shot. And just like discard whatever we draw into. That's one line I see. Another line is we can Hammerhead, do something, or we could just like cycle as riches. Let's start with the big game trophy shot and see what we draw. Let's draw a Bolton shot, which is not super useful, except as a blue, I guess. I think we'll discard the Bolton shot, and then pre-med, and then 3 Oak Riches. And we still have some looks even if we don't draw an arrow here, because we'll have a bit of floating left over and the tunic counter up. So I think this is relatively safe, and we draw basically the perfect draw. So King Shark plus 2 blues is fantastic, obviously, goes without saying. And now, because we play the tipple, we get to activate the gold-baited hook and swing in. So this is looking like a pretty thick harpoon here. Coming in for a nice, clean 17. Not quite 20, but no one's perfect, right? And we are threatening functionally 2 gold on hit plus a potential 3rd with the King Shark. So yeah, this is looking really nice for us. Do still have to be a little bit worried about fatigue here. But I think in general, I think the long game typically favors Victor. Riches does help with this matchup though, just giving you extra resources to gold, and we did find it early, which is also a lot nicer, so it means we might have like 3 to 4 extra gold over the course of this game. Okay, so they're going to give us the Test of Iron Grip, the Trounce, and basically all of their armor, so I'm kind of okay with this. Unfortunately, we might not end up hitting here because they ended up drawing 2 block cards, unfortunately. But it looks like they're having to re-roll at least the Test of Iron Grip, and then they're going to also have to re-roll the Trounce. This is actually looking like maybe kind of like a more fatigue-style Victor, like I think we saw on stream a little while ago. I think fortunately for us, they are going to have to also use the Quick Dodge here, so we're basically getting rid of all of their armor here, which I think I'm fine with this exchange. Like, we're not going to be losing our gold-baited hook or anything here, so I think that despite our 17 getting blocked out, we also get through all of Victor's armor, which is quite nice, and we also functionally get rid of a gold with the Ormagus. So I'd say overall, not that bad for us. All right, coming in with an E-Strike. So we are a little bit behind here. What did they reveal off the top? I think they had a CNC that they're drawing next, right? Or did they pitch the CNC to the Quick Dodge? No, they could, yeah, they could theoretically. No, I think they. So I think they Test of Strength then trounced. The Test of Strength put the CNC on the bottom, so I don't think we know what their top draw is yet. So if that's the case, what's the play here? Maybe just block 3 with a drill shot and then like load a fatigue shot with a lace with blood rod on. We'd have to use a gold to do that, but I think that's maybe reasonable. We'll go off another arsenal. I think that's maybe worth it. So let's start by cracking the gold. This is also assuming, I guess, I draw into blue, so maybe the block there was actually wrong. Okay, but we drew a blue anyways, that's fine. So now we can Hammerhead, Polar Tunic, and then just lace on a fatigue shot. This probably will demand blocks at least, which is nice, and we are still going off an arsenal to play around CNC, so I think that's also beneficial for us. All right, and we will connect as well, which is fantastic. So obviously they're probably going to hammer next turn, but we still get the added blood rot value there, which I think is well worth it. All right, this hand leaves a bit to be desired. That's okay though. So what's the play on this hand? Can maybe just block with the King Kraken, and then I feel like there's nothing super exciting we can do here. One alternative play I see is we like pop a gold with the Golda tip, and then we just like pre-med on like a King Shark. That's also not very exciting. I almost want to be like a bit conscious about fatiguing out a little bit here. I don't want to just like make. I feel like there's not really a great play here, is there? Maybe we just take the 4 here, and then we like pop gold for Marlin, gold the tip, pre-med, and maybe Arsenal something else. This hand is kind of bad. I think we're just going to take the 4 here maybe and see what we can work with. I feel like there's also maybe an argument to just like blocking through there. Not entirely sure. Let's start with the gold, the tip. I feel like maybe we're gonna like just send a King Kraken off a pre-med if we, assuming we draw a blue. If we don't draw a blue, that's also fine. Maybe not fine. So now we King Kraken pre-med. I think we're just gonna try to set up this King Shark. I'm trying to be a bit conscious about fatigue value while also trying to preserve life total because we are behind in life as well. We do have most of their armor out of the way though, which is quite nice. Pre-med hitting also fantastic. I guess the pre-med doesn't really matter that much. I think we're probably still gonna arsenal the King Shark here. And then hold on to the 3-oak. I think this makes sense. Alright, not a bad hand. We can block 6 on something if we need to. That's a pretty good target to block 6 on. We can also maybe use cash on our gold bait hook here. So we block 3 here, and then give them the sleep dart as well. So we're taking 3 down to 18, but we then get to 3-oak and send a King Shark at them. Unfortunately, they will be able to buy back potentially a choke slam here. But they don't have a CNC in the bin yet, so that's actually quite nice for us. So I feel like overall the Codex, or sorry, this for some reason, sorry, I'm losing my mind. For some reason, I thought this was Codex Frailty, or I thought I had like Codex in my arsenal instead of King Shark. Yeah, we don't have to worry about Codex at all. That's fantastic. Long day. Okay. Yeah, that seems fine. So we can't unfortunately gold a tip here because we did use our tunic counter earlier, but I think we are pretty likely to hit here, and that's kind of a funny hand. We drew a 3-oak off a 3-oak, the classic. Unfortunately, we can't play these because we can't play any cards from hand, but this is not even a bad arsenal target. And we did not make a goal this turn, so we could not safely gold baited hook here. All right, what other cards do we have to worry about? We have 2 Test of Iron Grip still probably left, and then obviously some Test of Strengths as well. What I'm looking to target is just their pile of gold at this point, just to keep them off of the Visit the Gold Main Estate, but we did see them bottom one to a earlier clash. So they have another one here, unfortunate. I think, so if they play the Cranial Crush, that does mean that they're not going to go to Gold Main necessarily. No, they could still do it if they drew a blue. So I guess the question is like, what is higher risk here? I feel like there's a chance that they brick off a red off the cranial. Or wait, what did they reveal on top? They revealed a blue up top, so they know the top is a blue. If that's the case, then the cranial is actually... Well, we only have to block 5 on the cranial versus the CNC, so I guess maybe it's still better to take the CNC here. Not 100% that. I think it's still correct to take the CNC because the 5 block is a lot easier for us to block, but they're actually going to ditch the cranial here. Fascinating. So the cranial is actually kind of pretty good against us, I feel. So I'm kind of curious to see them just ditch it here and then go for the millers. So I think here we're just going to take say no blocks, mill a card, presumably, and then just try to send back a huge turn at them. So I'd say I'm pretty okay with this. All right, Spinal on top, so we lose our fatigue shot. Not the end of the world. All right, so we're going to start off with the salvage here because we do need to clear it from Arsenal. Let's get rid of what here? So they don't have any yellows in the bin, so our... Okay, or Omegas is not yellow, it just counts as gold, right? So we'll go ahead and just get rid of our big game trophy shot. I think that's fine. And then we'll crack a gold here so that we can fire our own big game trophy shot. I think I'm going to hold on to the bluefin here just because it's pretty decent against Victor. King Kraken is interesting, though. I feel like we maybe honestly want to just send this in for the damage. The disruption on the bluefin is nicer, but like keeping this as a blue is maybe more relevant. I guess we don't have to load it right away, though. Let's go ahead and sack another gold, because if we draw blue here, we can do everything. If we don't draw blue, we can still like buff on the King Kraken, which is fine. Redfin is also interesting, but unfortunately it still doesn't work out with the resources here. So I think here... How many CNCs have we seen? We've seen 1 CNC. I think maybe there was another one that was bottomed or pitched at some point, so we have 1 more to worry about. Interesting. They wanted to undo something. Okay. Anyways, we'll go ahead and gold bleed hook and then just take game, send in the King Kraken here. All right, 17 is pretty big. So if we do get to hit anything here, I'm assuming we're just going to get some gold here, which is also fine. So get 2 gold off of the big game trophy shot. We can steal their gold. So this is mostly just for gold purposes, and all they have is Spinal, which is fine. So I think we can maybe just take the turn next turn to kind of block out a little bit. And then maybe try to like Arsenal Codex for next turn. I think that's pretty reasonable. So we're coming in for 14. We'll lose our go again for the turn, but not the end of the world, I'd say. And then we just get to sit on Codex and Arsenal, which is great. Losing some pretty decent threats, but not much we can do here. So yeah, I think we'll just take our 5 here and just get a little bit more gold gen going. So we'll turn over another big game trophy shot. And we're sitting on a pile of 14 gold, which is always a good feeling. So yep, now we're just going to take a tempo turn, just Arsenal pass and see what they got. And this is a fantastic Codex hand. Definitely depends on whether or not we're going to be able to keep it here. If they're just sending Miller's Grindstone, this is going to be great for us, though. If they have anything else, like a Choke Slam, though, this could be rough. All right, E-Strike's also pretty good. So coming in for another 7. So I don't think there's any realistic way. So we can block 3 here, but we'd still be 1 short. So I think we just have to get rid of the drop the anchor here. And we can go to 1 here and keep our Tunic up, which I think is reasonable. They will be able to get back like a CNC or something. But I think keeping the Tunic on 1 still makes sense. We can always use it to block later, so that's fine. I don't think this deck is running any attack reacts also. Or they shouldn't generally be. So I'd say I'm still pretty okay with this. We'll lace. The one unfortunate thing about having to block with the Sarung there is that if we draw like a blue that we want to like give go again, this obviously gets a little bit more awkward. But I think we'll just get another King Shark here. Probably our best hit. And try to dodge a couple more of the Clash cards that are still in the deck. Yeah, the Clash cards do make this matchup sometimes a little bit rough, but like we do have a lot of ability to kind of like go over a lot of their numbers. And a lot of Victor decks are cutting Pummel just for the consistency of the Clash cards. So that is kind of like a double-edged sword in that now we like, obviously Clash cards very, very good into us, but now we don't have to like play around Pummel, which is nice. And it looks like they're just going to get an E-Strike here. So they will have to give us potentially some armor, and then we also get to strip maybe the best card out of their hand. Assuming they got E-Strike probably just because it's the generic best thing to get. Assuming that maybe I leave them with like a red or something. Would only come in for 6 at most though, so pretty easily blocked by some breakpoints here. I would like to find our last 3 oak if possible. I think that would probably be one of our better draws at this point. All right, so Debilitate and Bluefin, okay with us. So we're not discarding to the Test of Iron Grip, which is nice. We are also hitting him with a Lace, which is quite good as well. All right, so we have a Crush Confidence and a Disable. Interesting. I mean, I guess like we'd rather them not give them the option. Although if they want to stay on Hammer, I think I'm like actually kind of okay with that. So maybe we'll give them the option and just take the Crush Confidence. Like I think I'd almost rather them send the Hammer here than do anything else. I think Bluefin is like a reasonable arsenal. Not super exciting, but probably fine. All right, I'm going for buff power. So this hand is a little bit rough. Lots of 2 blocks. So I think the most efficient thing we can do here is they're going to go to 1 here. I guess the question is, what are we getting rid of here? It's probably just the take game. We could try to cycle towards something better here, but I don't know if it actually gets much better than this. Like, I think 7 is actually maybe just the best we can send here, because if we draw a red off the gold, obviously we draw a blue, it's fantastic. We get to potentially cycle a bit more. But if we draw a red here, that like actually kills our turn. And we still have a lot of red still left on the deck. Like we have another pre-med still left. We have take game. 3 oak would obviously be good. So the question is 7 winning the game? Assuming that they don't have a Test of Strength or Test of Iron Grip here, they would have to give us 3 cards. But that's only if they don't draw one of their 3 best cards in this scenario. Alternative plan is we can try to cycle towards our last 3 oak. I feel like that would save us. But there aren't much, like even if we draw 3 oak here, we'd have to draw blue into 3 oak. I feel like I'm going to go with my gut and just send 7 here, but I feel like this might be a losing proposition. Especially if they do have a 4 block here. And it seems like they unfortunately do. Unlucky, but if they can lose the trounce here, that would be great for us. I say they did lose it. So I feel like we still have outs here, mainly involving 3 oak. What? They just reroll? Okay, interesting. Maybe some cheating going on there. That's fine. All right, we draw I here, which is nice. So I guarantees us some blues, but we actually might not even need it here necessarily. If they can't block this, they just go to 1. And take aim, I think, is a good keep there. All right, we'll go ahead and send it. I'm not entirely sure this will kill, because they still do have some number of block cards. But if they only have 1 block card, I think they can't block this realistically. All right, so there's 1. Oh, maybe just the 1? 1 time? All right, so take aim and macho, so obviously they win that. And they might not have anything here. Yeah, it looks like they just had the Peck Perfect, the Debilitate, and the Macho. It's definitely a pretty close game. I wasn't sure if the reroll there, they did matter. Maybe they just forgot to reroll. That's also completely reasonable. But yeah, I think a lot of the victor lists as of late have just been cutting Pummel entirely just for more block cards. Like I think this victor list is running 1, 2. So we saw the Test of Strength and Trounce, and I think they're on basically all 9 block cards, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, actually, wait. Do we turn over? No, we turned over a Golden Sun. And then they had 1. So yeah, they're basically on all 9 block cards at that point. Yep, that makes sense. Yep. So I think that was a pretty good one. Let's see if we can get another. Playing against a Jarl. Lots of Guardians today. I feel like in general, this is actually like one of the few matchups where I'm like more okay with the Skullbone. And I think that since there's a lot of fatigue Jarl around, we should maybe just fat deck this. I think the Dark Pit traps are a little bit excessive, but I think everything else maybe seems fine. So we'll try it like this. So this, to me, does not necessarily look like the more fatigue style Jarl. We do get to start the game off with a gold, though, which is quite nice. Do we want to use Quiver here at all? I guess the question. I feel like it's pretty low risk. This also doesn't signal to me like an Earth Jarl or anything. So I think let's go ahead and Quiver and just see what happens. All right, we get Yellowfin, that's fine. So I think in this case, we could just fire it off here if we wanted to. And like maybe even throw the gold bait hook on it. We would go off an Arsenal though, which is unfortunate. I don't know if the look there was actually correct. Maybe we're supposed to just like Hammerhead, Arsenal, Fatigue Shot. I don't know. That's also not very exciting. Let's go ahead and just send it then. We do start with gold, which is nice. And we are also throwing a gold baited hook, so maybe this eats armor. But aside from that, I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of this play. All right, so it seems like they're on maybe like a more ice. Righteous Cleansing to me are interesting. So they're running like a clean 60, but they're also running Righteous Cleansing. There's a lot of weird. So this block to me is very, very strange, right? They have the Righteous Cleansing, they have the Pummel, they have the Rootbacker. Like this is almost like 3 different archetypes of Jarl to me, which is kind of fascinating. So I'm kind of curious to see what they have cooked up here. All right, so I think next turn we might just turn over the Righteous Cleansing and just like Arsenal like a Sleep Dart and pass or something. Maybe just like block 6, depending on what they do. There's also like a real chance that we just like seafloor salvage. and then maybe like cycle something. So it looks like they're on like some kind of Earth Jarl that's also running Summit and Righteous Cleansing. A lot of interesting deck choices in here, so I'm kind of curious to look at their list afterwards. What do we want to do here? So we can Seafloor Salvage, Crack a Gold, send Sleep Dart. I think that's pretty reasonable. This is not threatening any on hit or anything, which is also quite nice. So I think I'm almost fine here to just take 4 and just like play even like this is a mediocre hand, but I think it's still like a fine hand. So go ahead and turn over the Righteous Cleansing, net our gold, and then we can crack a gold to load Sleep Dart and just fire it off. We could also load the Drill Shot if we wanted to. That actually might be better because then we get to keep whatever random arsenal we hit. All right, so Sunken Treasure, not fantastic, but this I feel like makes more sense since we're not on Tunic to do the Drill Shot over the Sleep Dart. We did gen a gold this turn, so the gold bait hook. I guess the gold bait hook doesn't do anything anyway since it's Drill Shot, but might as well make him think, right? Maybe they don't know that the Drill Shot does not get counted by the gold bait hook. Entirely possible. If we do end up connecting with this, we do get quite a bit of value. We can either take out their Quick Dodge or the Gauntlets. I feel like I'd probably prefer the Gauntlets over anything else. All right, seems like they maybe have another root bound here. That's also fine. Somersault also kind of an interesting choice. Lots of very spicy choices in this this Jarl deck. All right, so they did have Pummel, but they don't have Tunic up right now. So I'd say that we could definitely just lose the Seafloor Salvage here. I'm not opposed to that. And then we can maybe just send off like a Battering Bolt, depending on what we draw into. I think there are actually like a lot of interesting draws. Like if we draw a red, we can still play that, and if we draw a blue, we can also still play this. So I think this hand's just fine enough to take 6 here. We do have to be a bit cognizant of fatigue, but I think that we're doing pretty well on that front. So I think here we'll just make use of our gold. We could also tipple if we wanted to. Ooh, is the tipple actually better? The tipple might be better here because then we're refreshing. We're not going gold negative. So I think the blue tipple actually makes a bit more sense here. So unfortunately, we don't draw another blue, but that's fine. We still just draw Lace plus drop. They give us Frostbite here, which is not going to matter. So we'll go ahead and actually, we should have also gold baited hooked that, I guess, but also didn't end up mattering. Lots of misplays today. That's fine. We'll go ahead and drop the anchor here, pitching the blue. And then I think just fire off the Battering Bolt, Arsenal, and the Lace here. Seems like they're running a decent amount of Arsenal disruption. So maybe holding onto the Lace was a little bit greedy. We did see Plow Unders as well, so I feel like actually maybe playing the Lace was a bit safer. Definitely depends, I'd say. I feel like maybe it's a bit better to play the Lace there. But if we don't get punished for it, obviously quite nice. Battering Bolt will also give us info on their hand, which is quite good. So they're just going to play a Felling out at us. That's fine. So what's our play against Felling in particular? So unfortunately, we don't have the gold generation to gold a tip here. So maybe we're just bottoming that for later. And then just like take aim plus Lace plus King Kraken unbuffed. I feel like that might be the best play. Or alternatively, we can just... I guess we can't... if the take aim was an Arsenal, obviously we could have loaded, and that would maybe been a little bit nicer for us. So yeah, I think we'll just gold a tip here. And then just take 4 off the Felling. I think overall this is fine. So their Summit is live, but they haven't broken any of our armor yet, which is also quite nice. So I think here we're just going to go ahead and send in with the Lace. I guess just a big Harpoon here. Fortunately, it's still only 12, but we haven't really found a lot of our gas in the deck. Like we still have our Codexes, obviously, and the 3 Oaks as well. Drop the Anchor, I think, is not necessary. I feel like we'd rather just draw our power at this point. So I think just coming in for 12 with a Lace on hit is probably reasonable. I don't think we want to give Hook here, obviously, just for free. And we did not net a gold this turn, so it would break if we did not. If we did send it there. Wonder if maybe in Nero I'm not even supposed to run the Battering Bolts. Maybe just run like the Swells and the Drops, just for a little extra consistency. I think that also might be reasonable. Alright, so keeping a 4-card hand. This hand's pretty good if we're not getting Oaken Old. For getting channel like Frigid, it could definitely be problematic. I feel like we still have plays though. We can take aim and just sleep dart. I think that's a play I see. Okay. Seems like they maybe just wanted to pay for the blood right there. All right, so I think here are plays to just send 6 here, which is a little bit unfortunate, obviously. So we pitch the bolt shot, then we'll just send the sleep dart for 6. I guess we can also, or no, we cannot. Oops, so we cannot get the op value there. So instead, we should just send the sleep dart. Unfortunately, a little bit of cheating on my end, because I did not mean to see the card there, obviously. But unfortunately, the Skullbone does cost 1 more to activate. It doesn't really influence our play very much, so I think that's still fine. All right, so we are potentially representing Pummel here. I guess the question is, how many Pummel is this Jarl realistically running? Could definitely get God here, but I think maybe we just have to go for the block here. I think we're just going to go for the block and then maybe just get back one of our 1 costs like a sleep dart. It's kind of a weak play, but I think we don't really have many better options. If they obviously hit us with the Pummel, unfortunate. Yeah, this is an interesting Jarl deck. So they hit our Codex and they also hit our drop with the anchor. I think this is still overall fine because now we can just like pass here. Still have a lot of armor to work with as well. So I don't think we're even in that bad of a spot because of the CNC Pummel. A little unfortunate they had it there, but maybe, I don't know. This Jarl list is definitely a bit interesting to me. All right, so coming with the Righteous Cleansing. So I think here, I feel like we're so far ahead on deck value that we maybe just don't care about this. Ideally, we try to draw like maybe like another buff here or something off the tipple. And if we draw like a random blue, we can obviously just discard a Codex or whatever. Maybe we don't even need a tipple though. Like maybe we just block with a Bluefin Harpoon, takes our 7, and then just send. We have a King Shark, right? Or we do not have a King Shark. But we do have a King Kraken, which also can be somewhat decent ERL. So I think I just kind of like this block and just let ourselves get hit by the Righteous Cleansing. So this is almost like this is a really interesting list. This is almost like a hybrid version of the Jason Rolfe list. Kind of a bit different direction, I'd say. I'd say that the Pummels, the Summer's Fall, and like some of these cards kind of do go against the core game plan of like the Fatigue Jarl, which is to just like have everything be a consistent block card. So I think like those cards are definitely like a bit of like a deviation, I guess, from like what I would expect out of like a Fatigue Jarl. So we're gonna Skullbone here, see if we can inform our Ponder. Port Exchange is not terrible, but I also feel like we can do better. I honestly don't think Portside is like all that bad of an arsenal. But I think because we're only sitting on 1 gold though. Maybe this is actually fine. Yeah, I think that's fine now that I think about it, because now we just get to get a little bit more gold gen going. So we are going to potentially give them back a felling, which could be unfortunate. But not a ton we can do about it. It would only come in for 7 if they want to play it this turn. So I'd say overall, I'm kind of okay with this. And if they end up having multiple non-attacks in hand, obviously the King Kraken gets a bit better. Debating almost wanting to hook here. Oh, they're going to get an Okanold instead. That's terrifying. So how are they going to Okanold, though, is the question. I guess they can have, like, blue attack plus pulse plus some other card. If it's Crumble, we get to threaten that, though, which is interesting. So I still don't think I'm supposed to Gold Raid hook here, but the Okanold get is a bit interesting to me because I feel like that means something very specific. Because if they have Crumble in hand and they're getting Okanold, that probably isn't that good, right? They don't really have like a real way to block that. Funny thing about Okanold is we can also like give all of our armor here to block it if we really want to, plus like a 3 block from hand, assuming that they dominate here. Yeah, maybe don't fully understand what this hand represents. So there's the Pulse of Eisenloft. So I guess they have 2 blue non-attacks, and they discarded another Okanold. Okay, I guess this does technically make sense. So they're gonna use the Pulse of Eisenloft here, which we did kind of foresee coming. Let's go ahead and get rid of the Crumble then in that scenario. And maybe we should have gone for the Gold Bait Hook. Maybe there was some merit to that. So now we have the decision of whether or not we want to give all of our armor to block out the Okanold. You also have Tunic on 1 here, which is also a bit unfortunate. And they are just going to have a Pulse in Arsenal. So I guess my question is, how bad is it if this hand gets hit by Okanold? If they take our 2 blues, I think that's pretty bad. If they take our 2 buffs, I don't even think that's necessarily that bad. So I think our fail state is really just being left with Big Game Trophy Shot and Lace. Giving 5 armor here feels excessive. But, like, I guess there is also, like, a play we can do where we just, like, port side, Informer draw, do something there. I think this is actually a pivotal decision in the game. I feel like I'm supposed to just get hit by this. So we get rid of the Big Game Trophy Shot and the Tipple. I think that's actually fine. We've also not seen a 3-oak at all this game. Start with the Skullbone, see if we can try to find one of our power cards. So we find a Big Game Trophy Shot. Not super helpful right now, honestly. I think we're just going to start digging at this point for action. So let's go ahead and get rid of the Goldfin Harpoon. I think we need to find something just a little bit better here. All right, Bluefin almost gets there. So I think we have like 1 more draw here. If we draw a blue here, it's actually not even that bad because we can use Tunic here. All right, King Kraken also is fine. So yeah, that's perfectly fine here. So we Arsenal King Kraken, we can now Lace. We're still waiting on 3 of our 3-oaks at this point. Go ahead and pump it up, and then send in the King Kraken. There's actually... So we did generate a gold this turn, so we can gold bait hook this. I think if we didn't generate a gold, there's also maybe still some merit to just throwing the hook on this. Trying to force out some blocks. It does seem like they're a bit more attack action heavy, which is a little bit unfortunate that we didn't see any of our King Krakens, or maybe we bottomed one at some point. I'm not 100% on that. I feel like we haven't seen one. Maybe we just drew all 3 of our King Krakens before the King Sharks here. So they have the Pulse, which you know about. This is fine, though. It's still not covering the full amount. I guess they can use the Quick Dodge now, though, so this will cover the full amount. I'd say 2-card Jarl hand, unless they have Felling, is generally quite good. Okay, they do have a 3-card Jarl hand now, so maybe that got a little bit better. All right, just come in with a Mangle. So we're getting pretty low at this point, and we don't have any gold set up. So I feel like we almost just have to... So if we get the Mangle here, this will not get the counter until the end. But I think I actually kind of like this, so that we can at least threaten just like a Redfin or something random here. I feel like there's some decisions that I made this game that were maybe poor. Like maybe we're supposed to block more on that Felling. And we also got hit by like the CNC, I guess. I don't know. There I think are some minor decision points this game where I could have maybe preserved the life total and tried to draw towards 3-oak a little bit better. I think I kind of like this draw. Or I think I like this play here. So we'll turn over the Righteous Cleansing. Save our life total a little bit. We still have some armor to work with, so I guess we're still not in that bad a shape. So I think here we'll go ahead and 3-oak. I guess we could pop gold if we want to try to get greedy and draw a buff. I don't know if that's necessary. All right, so we find a Swell, a Bluefin, and a Codex. So I think we're just going to try to Arsenal the Codex here, pitch the Swell, send it with the Bluefin. And we did not make a gold this turn. We made a gold on their turn. So I think we're still just coming with the Bluefin for 8. It's pretty likely they're still able to block here. A Winter's Rest is another card I feel like I don't see in Jarl a ton. right, so now we get to take a blue. I feel like it's probably just the glacial, so they can't just throw it at us. Yeah, makes sense to me. So we can catch them on a bad hand here. I think that we do have a shot at coming back, and the king shark is actually going to be pretty huge here. So they only have another random blue in hand, so I think now is the time to just give up the armor. And we can now pre-med, 3 oak, and codex all in the same turn, which is quite nice. There's also, I guess, a play where we block the seafloor salvage, but I don't think that's good because we don't have our tunic counter up, so we'd have to pitch the pre-med here. So I think this has to be the block, right? Don't think there's a better block. I guess we could also give up the tunic instead. I feel like I like tunic more than skullbone at this point. I don't know. I feel like I didn't like board this correctly, which is interesting. But I guess I'm like also not expecting this version of Jarl. Like I feel like in general I've not seen Pummel in a very long time. And also the mix of like the fellings and the righteous cleansings are quite interesting. So let's start with the 3 oak here. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we want to do. We could cycle 1 gold if we want to try to draw towards another buff. I feel like that's like low EV though. And we would not have drawn a buff there. So I'd say this is fine. So let's go ahead and codex here. I guess we want to keep the king shark in the deck right over a red fin. So we'll pitch the king shark plus the red fin, codex away the other red fin, and then just buy back the king shark that we blocked with last turn. Then I think it's probably safe to start just threatening the gold baited hook here. If they want to block 13 on this, I'm almost fine with that. We're also not giving them back a felling here, which is quite nice. Wonder if giving them back a felling on that one turn was maybe where we went wrong this game. Entirely possible. Like maybe we're supposed to just like pitch stack our fellings for later and try to catch them when they don't have an arsenal so they can't like buy back anything. Maybe that's a better play. But I'm assuming we're probably going to hit something with the king shark, at least given their deck composition here. So it looks like we connect. So they go to 1 here, and we get to take, I guess, the plow under. It's probably the best card here, right? So we put him to 1. We've definitely made up for the little bit of life difference here. And I don't think do we know what's in their arsenal? I feel like it's just like a random blue or something at this point, right? So I feel like we're probably safe just arsenaling the 3 oak. All right, it is the Eisen. So I guess the question is, are they going to be able to kill me with this? So coming in for 5, we can block with the saltwater swell and the battering bolt. And then maybe make like a goldfin harpoon in hand or something. I feel like we have options here. There's also maybe merit to just we can't take any damage here or that will kill us. So I guess this is really the only real choice. I guess we could like wait, actually this might be more interesting. What if we swelled plus Eye of Ophidia? Because that basically guarantees we hit a blue, and then we can also maybe inform what our 3 oak is drawing into. I actually think I like this better than going for like the gold to tip plus I plus 3 oak. Is that correct? I think that's reasonable. Oh, I guess they're not even channeling the Eisen. Wait. So if they're not channeling the Eisen, then maybe we don't even care, right? Because this happens at the start of each hero's turn, so this just goes away. So yeah, what we can actually do here is we can block with the battering bolt, keep this hand, and then this is like significantly better, right? Because we're not going to die to this. We will make another frostbite, I guess, but I think that's worth it to just keep this hand. I guess we also don't need to go tunic. We can go to 1 like this. So yeah, I think this is the block now. Because they don't have a ice card here, so the Eisen will go away. All right, so we're going to start with the swell, which will cost 3, but we should be able to refresh our blue here. All right, so we draw a yellowfin plus king. So this is actually like the perfect draw, right? We draw a red we can play, and we also draw the blue on top. So yeah, this is perfect. We get to pitch the blue, also fantastic. And then we get to buff plus 3 oak. So I feel like we made a lot of mistakes this game, but we somehow managed to kind of pull it together. So definitely happy about that. Let's go ahead. So now the king shark's on top. I think this is now fine to play. And then we can pull Tunic and Arsenal take game. Okay, yep, this works perfectly. So fortunately, we started drawing into our 3 oaks, which I think really kind of changed this game quite substantially. I guess we also don't need the gold bait hook here because it's pretty likely this connects anyways. But I feel like there's maybe like a sideboarding lesson here. It's kind of hard because you have to like hedge between what the version of Jarl you're playing against is, because there is a lot of like deck building variety. So it seems like this deck is really interesting to me because it feels like it's trying to do a lot of different things. Like it feels like it's copying to some extent the Jason Rolf list with like the righteous cleansings and stuff. But it also feels like it's trying to do like an aggressive thing with the pummels, and then also like the earth decompose cards. Like a lot of like the earth package lists are not even running like Plow Under anymore. So this Jarl list is like a very interesting hodgepodge of cards. I feel like it's maybe I feel like there's a lot of good stuff here if you get to line it up, but if you don't get to line it up, I feel like there's maybe a lot of tension in terms of like your game plan here, because like the pummels and the pummels are leaning you towards like a more aggressive direction, right? And then the big blues are almost indicating to me that this is maybe, or like the righteous cleansing stuff is like indicating fatigue, and then the like felling stuff is more like mid-range value kind of gameplay and stuff. So it's almost like the list is like pulled in a lot of different directions, which is kind of interesting. But I'm not even saying that's wrong. I'm more so saying it's just kind of like a lot of interesting cards that are kind of put together, that kind of like have been associated with, I guess, different game plans. So definitely a kind of interesting little Jarl list there. All right, let's see if we can get one last one. Playing against Kano, we definitely want to go first. And I think we're going to be running our full AB package. Not the best matchup, but we'll still play it out. I think that this is overall correct. I guess the extra blues might help a decent bit. I think we can also pretty safely cut like the King Sharks here and maybe lean towards like the Battering Bolt plus Riches just for a little bit of extra pitch. I think that's fine. Let's try it like this, I think. I think this looks good. All right, give them a good luck, have fun. All right, how do we want to start this without getting like insanely greedy? I feel like the correct move is to just like pass here. But obviously, in any other scenario, we'd probably want to just like overpitch to Hammerhead. But I feel like that's probably too risky on turn 0. Kind of surprised they didn't opt towards any filtering there. I guess maybe they have some good plays they can make. Right, just coming in with the flare. Makes sense. So they do have flare plus floodgates, which is kind of terrifying. That almost makes me want to use just a blue here. And then maybe Arsenal like the bluefin or like fatigue shot. I think those are both reasonable. So I think maybe our play is to just pay 3 here. Mostly because they have the floodgates full up. Although if they're only coming in for 2 here, this Crucible is really interesting because it means that if they're not activating Crucible, I feel like this Crucible says like them not activating Crucible means that they like this card. It's kind of interesting. I feel like I'm just gonna stay healthy though, even if it's at the risk of our own turn, and just sandbag a blue for fatigue shot. So they're only gonna come in with the floodgates for 1 now. So we don't need to pitch to this because obviously it needs to surge to give the effect. It seems like the last card they maybe want to play there was just an E-Pot. So I think overall, I feel like the way we handled that was fine. Let's go ahead and Skullbone and try to just dig towards our power cards, mainly 3 Oak. So we can go ahead and safely bottom that fatigue shot. And then I think we're just going to smack him with a Lace and then try to Arsenal our own fatigue shot here. I feel like this matchup is not so much about damage as much as it is just kind of being patient. We could also threaten the gold bait hook on here. Actually, that's probably better, right? Because we're making the riches anyways. So if they want to block 9 on this, I'm almost happy with that. Fatigue shot, not really the best arsenal, but we didn't really have better choice in this scenario, I think. We can still send fatigue shot, which is fine. It's mostly just for insulation in case they opt to send something at the end of their turn. It seems like they're maybe just going to block Dying Pass here, which I'm also kind of okay with, I'd say. All right, yep, so they're just going to pass again, also makes sense. So here we're probably going to use our Skullbone to inform kind of our draw here. I think Premeditate's a really good draw. So now we can... Now I think we can go ahead and Marlin. I think we want to just tipple in this scenario, right? And maybe try to like sandbag the port side exchange. We should actually put the gold bait hook on this though first. So let's go ahead and tipple, pitch the Sunken Treasure, and then get rid of the Goldfin Harpoon here. And this will allow us to pre-med, and we are still sandbagging EV3. So I'd say overall this feels pretty good. And if we obviously connect with the tipple, which I think they almost all but guaranteed do here, that's also really good for us. So let's go ahead and pre-med now, and then Hammerhead, and then send in the Fatigue Shot. Fatigue Shot, obviously, not super relevant against Kano, but you do what you gotta do sometimes. We do have to at least make an attempt to kind of lower their life total. I feel like for the most part, our disruption is basically irrelevant in this matchup. It's more so our raw numbers is what we're kind of focused on. All right, so we connect there, which is nice. We have the portside exchange, which we can either keep in hand or arsenal. I guess we don't really have much of a choice here, but that's still fine. And it looks like they're just going to play another E-Pot and maybe overpitch a Wildfire. So the overpitch on a Wildfire signals to me that they probably just have a Wildfire in the bin already. So we do need to now play pretty scared, I'd say. All right, Codex is pretty good, I'd say. The problem, so there is a problem with Codex actually. The problem with Codex is we'd have to basically go to no cards in hand, which is an issue. Could also just like discard a Harpoon, or like discard like a Take Aim or something, and then just send an unbuffed arrow at them. Maybe that's actually the best option. So I think we do want the Codex, and then we'll just use the portside exchange to load it or draw it into it. I think that makes sense. So I definitely feel like they want to try to fire off here if they can. No load. Go ahead and now take aim. Take aim the Codex. We'll discard our blue. I guess, is there a way to get anything floating here? I guess we can actually crack a gold here if we want to be like a little bit safer. So I think we're actually getting rid of the lace here, which is awkward. I almost wonder if there's like a better play here, but maybe I'm overthinking it a bit. So let's now Codex. We can get our King Kraken Harpoon, discard our lace, and now we can just fire off the King Kraken here. Did we make a gold this turn? We did portside, right? So we should be allowed to go to gold bait hook here. And then we can just arsenal the other portside, or we can just keep some AB floating. It's a pretty bad matchup, but I think for the most part, if you play a little bit safe, you can sometimes do stuff. I think this matchup's very much dependent on 3-Oak, though. I think 3-Oak is our like main power card in this matchup, just in terms of like getting the resources for pitch. But if they're going to continue to keep blocking here, I think I'm also kind of happy with that. We kind of know at this point that their arsenal is Aether Wildfire, or at least it should be. Because they did pitch one. Okay, so their arsenal is a lesson instead. Interesting. Okay. So maybe I was a bit wrong there. This is still fine, though. So they pitched a Wildfire, held on to a lesson now. So now I almost want to just AB3 this to deny them the ability to tutor for Wildfire. I think that does seem reasonable. It's interesting they also did Crucible, which means that this card they maybe want to hold on to. So let's go ahead and I guess just pitch the eye here, kind of inform our draw a bit. I think the play next turn is actually just a King Kraken and like IP with the Codex, or like try to Arsenal the Codex. I think that's our best play. Codex not necessarily great. I think it is fine. So they're gonna get a flare on top now. All right, this is actually fantastic for us, right? Keep the 3-0, keep the big game trophy shot. I think both are good next turn. And now I think this is actually, I think, the one scenario where we're probably fine to hammer it. And so they put a flare on top, which means they have a red in hand now. So I think this does make sense. Although, actually, sorry, we should gold bait hook this first. So we gold bait hook this first, and then we just sandbag the Codex here. So we're technically going a little bit shields down here. But I think it does make sense to just send in with the Kraken here, because now they can't just afford to block here. So it seems like they might be trying to go off in response here. So hitting a blue flare we don't really care about as much. More so we're just worried about wildfire, which it seems like they unfortunately also got here. A little bit unfortunate, but also not the end of the world depending on what their setup is here. So let's go ahead and attempt to quiver. So attempt to quiver here. I guess there's also maybe merit to turning our Skullbone, or like turning this face up. I guess I don't think there's like ever a window where they would give us the extra point of prevention there, but I guess you never know. In a real game, it's probably better to do so. I think we are supposed to still just quiver there. Maybe this is like bait though. I don't know. Maybe the quiver was actually like wrong, because it doesn't seem like we knew their last card in hand was Flare. So maybe that wasn't actually that exciting of a play. I could see holding the prevention is actually maybe better in that scenario. I am kind of curious what the card they have in hand at this point is, though. I think this is also a scenario where we maybe don't want to play the big game trophy shot. Maybe we just want to keep this as pitch, but I do think we play the pre-med. And then I think now we 3-oak. And we still have the out of like making a Goldfin Harpoon if we really need to. But I feel like if they have anything here, they're probably going to try to respond to 3-oak. It seems like they're not going to go for that either. It's also fine. So Yellowfin, is that relevant here? Almost. It's almost relevant. I think it's still probably worth doing, though. We're going to be able to float one here. We're also going to be able to gold bait hook. I think this kind of makes sense. We might just be dead, though. I guess that's always the Kano problem, right? But we're still holding up AB3, which is, I think, the most we can ever really do against Kano. We did find one of our 3-oaks finally, which is also quite nice. So it's really interesting that they're not opting to pop up here, but I guess they maybe just don't have to. So they have a red flare in hand, a potion of deja vu, and a blue flare. So maybe they're just trying to set up like a bigger kill on us, which I guess also maybe makes sense. They can probably afford to do that in this matchup. And maybe that also signals to me that they haven't found another wildfire. They did bottom one early in the game, and they also hit one randomly off the top. It's a pretty good hand, though, for dealing with what they have. We have AB3, and we also have extra blues for our turn. So I'd say overall this is not too bad. So they're not opting to Crucible here, too, which is interesting. So we'll give them the blue here. We got to respect what they have. And I don't think they can floodgates here on top of this. Unless they crack an E-pot, which is also, I guess, fine. So the question here now is, do we want to AB into this? There's maybe some merit here, but we actually don't need a ton of resources, I feel like, on our turn, right? We can big game trophy shot, we can draw a bunch of cards, we can make just a regular Goldfin Harpoon, and maybe that's like our ticket out of this game. Lots of decisions here, actually. I feel like there's almost merit to just like letting this hit because it's their turn, right? Like we don't necessarily care about them drawing extra cards. Like I feel like on average, their card draws off the top are not that good for them. I feel like we're actually supposed to just take this take 3, they draw 2 additional cards. Where there's definitely ways we could get punished here, but I think letting them have the damage here does make sense. They're also cracking an E-Pot too, so their extension on their turn is also, as a result, a lot worse. Alright, they did Gaze, which is definitely annoying, which means that they are going to be able to dig a lot deeper towards Wildfire. Alright, it seems like they put 2 cards on top, so maybe just refreshing that E-Pot, which is also quite nice for them. So yeah, I'd say that's still pretty good for them. They get to re-get their E-Pot, but if they don't... So they also topped an additional one. So in this scenario, we can probably assume that they have access to Wildfire at least. All right, lots of interesting things happening. Let's go ahead and start, I guess, with the Skullbone and just see what we would be drawing into off the top. Pre-med is an interesting one. I almost feel like we just want a random blue just to pay for things, because we can already sort of threaten lethal. Not quite, though. I feel like we don't need to necessarily threaten lethal, though. We can maybe just like sandbag blues and hope they overcommit. I feel like that might be a better strategy here. So let's go ahead and big game trophy shot. I guess we're probably just discarding anything to the big game trophy shot here, right? So maybe we didn't really care that the red was on top. We're still just like sandbagging at the blue. So load the gold fin. I think we're starting to crack some gold here as well, just so that we're a little bit resource positive. So now we can Goldfin will have 1 extra floating. I guess the question is, do we want to go 1 deeper? Let's go 1 deeper, I think. Draw another blue, also fantastic. All right, so I think we're pretty safe here. We're going to be coming in for functionally 10, which means that they can block with Tunic plus a card. So they wouldn't die immediately. But they would be having to give up Tunic if they aren't committing here. So they are going to go to the Tunic. Also very interesting. So we're still playing a bit scared, but we are netting 2 gold here, which is quite nice. They dropped to 1. I'm almost wondering if I want to Arsenal the Sleep Dart. Might honestly be fine. Right, another all blue hand is quite good. Right, Spindle plus Kindles. They're using their Kindles very loosely here. I feel like that takes away a lot of the ceiling we have to also worry about. So I think we're just going to keep a being here. Maybe 3 on the Spindle. We have plenty of blues to work with, so I'm not super concerned about needing blues on our turn. You may just pump, send Sleep Dart, and then Arsenal the port side here. This is a very interesting game. I feel like we've both been playing it pretty patiently. All right, they're topping 1 card, putting 2 cards on the bottom, and IPing with a 3rd card. So I'm very curious what exactly their arsenal is at this point. They also gave up the Tunic, which is very relevant. Let's go ahead and bottom the Battering Bolt because I think we don't need it. And then if we pump the Sleep Dart, we would functionally be threatening lethal, and we also get to IP with 1 blue. Let's maybe crack 1 gold and just see if it gets any better. Like if we draw another blue here, it's also quite nice. So unfortunately here, I think we went a little bit resource negative. In which case, now do we want to overcommit? I think let's cycle the red here 1 more time and see if we can just get back to a blue. Okay, unfortunately we hit 3 reds in a row off the top. I think in this scenario, we're actually just supposed to just send Sleep Dart here, which feels quite weird. I think I'm happy just IPing with some blues. They can still send stuff on their turn, and they are running Spindles, I guess. So maybe we got greedy there. Yeah, I think we definitely got maybe a little bit greedy on that hand, but we drew into the 3 oak now. So that's quite nice. All right, so they have their eye. Yeah, it's a weird game. All right, let's go ahead and now AB3. Just deny them a little bit of that op value. And they should be having their wildfires functionally at this point. Let's go ahead and now 3 oak. I guess we should probably Skullbone first, though. We actually might want to discard this codex just so we can get a gold, and we're also going to be drawing into a blue. So we'll see if they want to pop off in response. So we'll discard the codex here. Might seem a little bit awkward, but I think that's fine. So pass on the drill shot. I feel like there's maybe a better opportunity this game to maybe like use gold to make a gold fin and just like overpower and force action. Maybe that was actually like a better play. But I think now we're just going to go to 5 resources and hope they can't kill us. I think it's basically now or never. And we can functionally AB anything they do at this point. So I think it's pretty safe to now just send in the Hammerhead. And we functionally have 9. So this seems good. They will have to do something in response here. The only question is, can they do anything, I guess, is really the question. So they don't have a Deja Vu, and they're pitching a Blazing, which is also fascinating. I feel like in general, they would want to hat the Blazing instead. Yeah, this has been a weird game. I feel like I've definitely made some misplays this game, but their plays have also been quite strange. So they found the Wildfire, that's fine though. We have plenty of pitch here. And we don't have to worry about this Blazing at least. So go ahead and AB3. They still have 1 Kano floating, which you do have to be a bit scared of. So this maybe signals to me that they have like a Blazing in Arsenal or something. Oh, Floodgates also would make sense. So they pay into that, they Floodgates, and then they get to draw a bunch of cards. Still AB for some of this, though. So the Floodgates is what they were sitting on for a while, which I guess makes sense. So I think depending on what they hit here, we're actually not in that bad a shape. I think Blazing is the only thing that truly kills us. It seems like they maybe bricked on Will off the top, or they drew into the Blazing. Yeah, I think we played this semi-well. I will say I think there are some opportunities to maybe use our gold fins this game to like net more, like instead of just sending like non-overpowered damage, like we can use our gold fins as functionally just like raw overpower. I feel like gold fins in general are not very good in other matchups, but they might actually be a little bit better in Kano just because it lets you float a bunch of pitch and also just send random overpower, which Kano can't deal with. Yeah, so I think that there's definitely some room for improvement in the game. Again, it's been a while since I've actually played against a Kano, so maybe I'm just a little bit rusty. So yeah, maybe my bad that game. I think that on a macro level we were doing pretty well, but I think there were some micro decisions here and there that I think could have been a little bit better. So I think that's probably gonna wrap it up for today. So playing against some Kano and some Guardians, which actually might be kind of what the new meta is. Depends how good Guardians are in the new set, but I think Kano is actually going to be in a pretty decent position, at least for a little while, just because I think that he loses 2 of his like rougher matchups of like Gravy and Slippy, or doesn't lose them, but those 2 matchups are a little bit better for Kano. I think overall, like Kano probably does pretty well into maybe even the new Brutes and Guardians. It remains to be seen like how much damage those decks are able to kind of output, but be very interested to see kind of like how the meta evolves, I guess, with the new Super Slam set, which we also are going to have a spoiler for. So be on lookout for that. I think we also have it on YouTube preview as well. But thank you all for watching. I just wanted to do like a little YouTube video. Mostly like a lot of our content has been streams lately because Tegan's been hard at work doing a lot of editing for both the preview video as well as the Zen documentary and stuff. So as always, I appreciate you all sticking with us, even though we're kind of doing a little bit of a mix of content in the short future. Yeah, but thank you all for watching. I still really like Marlon. I think she's pretty strongly positioned actually into the new meta, depending on how things shake up. And I think that losing Slippy and Gravy getting nerfed actually make her quite a bit better, even though we did lose the red tipples, which I think are going to be a little bit sorely missed. But I think Big Game Trophy Shot ultimately is a pretty good replacement, and we also still have access to the blue tipples, so maybe there's still a lot of room kind of for like Marlin experimentation here, which we saw. All right, but that's going to be it for today, so thank you all again, and I'll see y'all next time. And a special thank you to all the folks who decided it would be a good idea to give us $2 on Patreon. We really appreciate the support, but it's obviously never required.